Have you ever checked into a motel late at night, tired, alone, desperate for rest, and something just felt off? Maybe it was the way the hallway lights flickered, or how the front desk clerk wouldn't quite meet your eyes. Maybe you heard footsteps outside your door long after midnight, even though no one else was supposed to be staying on your floor. Most people brush it off. They tell themselves it's just in their head. But what if it wasn't? Across the country, travelers have experienced things in motels that can't be explained, stories that never make the headlines, missing guests, rooms that don't exist in the blueprints, whispering vents, shadows where there shouldn't be any. These aren't legends. These are true stories told by real people who barely made it out. Tonight, on Something Scary, we're diving into 7 bone-chilling motel horror stories, each more unsettling than the last. Some of these tales will make you question reality. Others will make you want to sleep with the lights on. If you think the creepiest room is the one at the end of the hall, you might be wrong. Before we begin, do yourself a favor, lock your doors, dim the lights, and hit that subscribe button to join the Something Scary family where true terror finds its voice. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell, because trust me, the next story might just be the one that keeps you up tonight. Are you ready to check in? Let's begin. Story 1. Room 103 hasn't been cleaned in years. I travel a lot for work. Not glamorous travel, just long, lonely drives across small towns in the Southwest. I do equipment installs for commercial kitchens, which means I'm always showing. Up late, leaving early, and crashing in motels that most people wouldn't even slow down for. This happened last year in Nevada. I had just finished a long job in Elko and was heading west. Around 11:30 p.m., I pulled off the highway near a place called Winfield. Never heard of it? Me neither. Tiny dot on the map, barely had cell service. But there was this little neon, sin blinking vacancy in red above a rundown building, Desert Palms Motel. I was exhausted. I figured it was good enough for 6 hours of sleep. The front office was a single room behind glass.
Ow.
A man, probably in his late 60s, sat behind the counter watching a small black and white TV. When I rang the bell, he didn't flinch, just turned his head real slow and gave me the kind of look that makes your skin tighten around your bones. "Just you?" he asked. "Yeah, just need a room for the night." He hesitated, like actually hesitated, and then slid me a key without a word, not a card. A key brass. It was heavy in my palm and attached to a green plastic tag that read, 103, no receipt, no ID check. He just muttered, "Rooms down to the left," and went back to his TV. The corridor leading to my room was silent. Not quiet. Silent. No hum of ice machines, no distant TVs, no pipes. Just carpet that squished slightly under my boots. Room 103 was 3 doors down. When I turned the key and opened the door, I immediately felt it. Something was wrong. The air was thick, stale, like a place that hadn't been opened in years. It didn't smell bad exactly. More like dust and forgotten things. But it wasn't. The smell that got to me, it was the stillness. Like the room had been holding its breath for decades, and just now realized someone walked in. The wallpaper was faded yellow with water stains, peeling at the corners. The bed was made but off. The sheet was tucked too tight, like a prop in a showroom. On the nightstand was an old rotary phone, unplugged. The TV was one of those heavy ones from the 90s. The screen had a faint handprint. The bathroom door was slightly ajar. I swear I could hear the faintest sound. Not water, not wind. More like breathing. Slow, shallow. I told myself I was just overtired. I went back outside to grab my duffel from the truck. When I looked back at the building, I noticed something that made me stop in my tracks. The other rooms, minus 101, 102, 104, all had lights on or some kind of noise coming through. TVs flickering, voices murmuring, but 103, nothing. Like it wasn't even part of the same structure. It looked darker than the others, like it was. Hiding. Still, I went back in. Lying in bed, I couldn't sleep. I kept feeling like I was being watched. You ever get that feeling? Not paranoia? Not like someone's outside the window? More like the room itself was watching you. Through the TV channels, but only static came through. It's all of them, except one, Channel 3. It was just the front desk. A grainy feed of the man still watching his TV. Weird eye. Turned it off and tried to sleep. That's when I heard it, a knock, not on the door. From inside the wall. Right behind the bed, soft, measured. Knock, knock, knock. Then, silence. A few minutes later, knock. Scratched, I couldn't move. I wanted to check the wall, but something in me said not to. Like whatever was knocking was waiting for that. I lay there until I finally passed out from sheer exhaustion. Morning came with a sharp burst of sunlight through the torn curtain. I felt off. Headache, dry mouth, chest heavy. I packed up fast and left. Didn't even shower. Just needed to be out of there. When I dropped the key off, the front desk guy looked at me like I'd done something wrong. "You stayed in 103?" he asked slowly. "You gave me the key?" He didn't respond. Just stared at me. Then he leaned forward and said in a whisper, "We don't rent that room." I blinked. "What?" He nodded toward the key. Room 103 was sealed. After the girl. Felt my throat tighten. "What girl?" He said nothing else. I left fast. Later that day, out of curiosity and lingering dread, I looked up Desert Palms Motel online. Nothing official. No website. Just one old forum thread from 2008. A user named Cactus Joe 22 wrote, "Desert Palms is cursed. Stayed there once in 2006. They warned us not to go near." 103 said a girl died in there, vanished without a trace. Her parents found the room like a display. Toothbrush untouched. Bed still made. No signs of a break-in. Just gone. Room 103's been closed since. Boarded up. Cleaners refused to go near it. Someone gave you that room either. They didn't know. Or they wanted something from you. I drove back through Winfield a month later. The Desert Palms Motel. Burned to the ground. Completely leveled. Fire reported at 11:47 p.m. Exact same time. I checked into room 103, and here's the kicker. In the local article about the fire, they mentioned only 12 rooms were listed in the structure. No mention of room 103, like it never existed. But I still have the key. I never gave it back. And sometimes, when I'm alone in a hotel room, I swear I hear that knock right behind the bed. Story 2. The ice machine that whispered my name. I always thought I was a logical guy. I don't believe in ghosts. I don't jump at shadows. I don't flinch at creaks in the night. I like facts, patterns, things I can explain. I work in electrical. Engineering. My world is full of wires, circuits, and numbers, not feelings. But what happened to me one winter night at a cheap motel outside Boise doesn't fit in any of those boxes. It was December, and snow had come down heavier than usual. I'd been driving all day, heading to a site visit for a factory install, but the roads were getting worse, and visibility was near zero. I wasn't about to risk crashing into a ditch just to make a deadline. I saw this glowing yellow sign through the whiteout. Cascade Pines Lodge, Vacancy. It wasn't a lodge. Let's get that clear. Just an old 2-story strip motel with faded green doors and a sagging roof. But I was cold, tired, and barely able to keep my eyes open. The woman at the front desk barely looked at me. Just slid over a key to room 212 and pointed up the stairs. Her hands were shaking like she'd been outside too long. "Want some ice?" she asked randomly before I left. I shook my head. She muttered something under her breath. I didn't catch it. Room 212 was as basic as they come. Bed, lamp, heater that rattled like an old truck. I tossed my duffel on the floor, turned the heat to full, and flopped onto the mattress. The silence outside was thick. No wind, no tires on gravel, just that deep, muffled quiet that only happens in heavy snow. After a while, the heater's noise became sort of hypnotic. I must have dozed off. I woke up around 2:30 a.m. sweating. The room was way too hot. I got up to turn the heat down and figured I'd get a glass of water. But the tap came out rusty and warm, so I threw on my hoodie and stepped out to grab Ice from the vending alcove down the hall. The motel had one of those old industrial ice machines, square, metal, humming loud, half frozen over. I grabbed a plastic bucket from the stack and placed it under the chute. That's when I heard it whispering, not a hum, not a motor. A human whisper, and it was saying my name, clear as day. Alex. ... I froze. The whisper was coming from inside. The ice machine. At first I laughed. Told myself it was a pipe creaking, a trick of the air, maybe my tired brain playing games. I leaned forward, pressed my ear against the metal. Alex... ... Why'd you come back? I jumped back like I'd been electrocuted. Nobody was around. Doors were all shut. No sound except that low, mechanical whine from the machine. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. Just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, heart pounding every time the fridge made a noise. I kept telling myself I was hallucinating. Maybe I'd been more tired than I thought. The next morning, I asked the front desk lady if there were any guests named Alex in the motel recently. She didn't answer right away, just stared at me with these cloudy gray eyes. There was, she finally said, almost too quiet to hear. Room 209. Few years ago, you look like him. I laughed awkwardly. Must be a coincidence. She nodded. You sure you don't want ice? That was the second time she'd asked me that. I left fast. That would have been the end of it, except I couldn't let it go. That whisper felt real, not imagined. It's not a dream. So I did something stupid. I went back. 2 weeks later, I was in the area again. I told myself I just wanted to see if the ice machine still made that sound. Maybe it was a wiring issue. Maybe I could explain it. I pulled into Cascade Pines around 8 p.m. It hadn't snowed. But the whole place still looked dead, like it hadn't had a guest since I left. The front desk was empty this time. Just a note on the counter. Take any room, key box is open. That should have been a red flag. But I took 212 again. I waited until after midnight. Then I went to the ice machine, and I brought a digital recorder at first. At first, nothing. Just the same machine hum, same buzz of old wiring. Then, at 12:17 a.m., I heard it again. Alex, my name, whispered soft and close. I pressed record. The whisper kept going. Different tones. Sometimes urgent, sometimes sad. You've left me. They forgot me. Why'd you run? And then you're next. I turned and ran. Left the bucket. Left the hallway light on. Slammed the door behind me in room 212 and didn't stop shaking until the sun came up. I checked the recorder. As soon as there was daylight, just static. One continuous hiss. No voice. No whispers. Not even the sound of the machine itself. Now, here's where things get worse. A few nights later, I was in a hotel room in Oregon. Normal chain, clean, modern, nothing creepy. I was trying to relax. I plugged in my laptop, loaded the audio file again. Still static. But this time, there was something underneath it. I cranked the volume, under the static, deep in the noise floor. I heard my own voice, whispering, not from the motel, not from the night of the recording. No, it was me saying things I've never said out loud. Things I've only thought. Private things. Dark thoughts. Old regrets. Words I swore I'd never speak. Secrets about people I've lost. Things I've done. Mistakes I've buried. I paused the file. The whispering didn't stop. It was coming from my laptop speakers. Even with the file closed, I haven't listened to music since. I don't trust anything with a speaker. Every time I turn on a machine, my phone, my car stereo, even my microwave, I hear faint static first. And sometimes, if I really listen, I can hear myself whispering back. I tried to contact Cascade. Pines Motel again? No listing? The number disconnected? Google Street View? Blurred out? I even checked local records. The county clerk said the property was condemned in 2009 after a fire. No working business should be operating there, but I stayed there 2 months ago, and I still have the receipt. The timestamp reads 2:17 a.m. The exact minute the whisper started. I don't know what I brought back from that motel. I don't. No, if it's following me, or if it's always been there. Maybe it didn't whisper to me. Maybe I was whispering to it. But if you ever find yourself at a rundown motel with an old ice machine, don't listen too closely, because if it starts whispering your name, it's already too late. Story 3. Don't look through the peephole after midnight. I was 19 the first time. I stayed at a motel by myself. It was meant to be a road trip. It's just me, my car, and a few days away from everything back home. I'd just finished my first semester of college and needed space to breathe. I didn't care where I ended up. I just wanted the highway, music, and empty skies. That night I was somewhere in southern New Mexico. A flat stretch of two-lane road surrounded by nothing but dirt, dying fences, and desert silence. I was running low on gas and starting to get tired when I spotted the only sign for miles. Sunrise Inn.
Clean rooms?
Vacancy it looked. Like it hadn't been updated since the 80s, the sign buzzed faintly. There were 10 rooms, all in a single row. Only 2 cars in the lot, one was mine. Inside the office, a woman sat behind a dusty counter. She didn't smile, didn't ask for ID, didn't even tell me the rate. Just handed me a key with a red tag marked Room 7 and said, almost too casually, "Don't look through the peephole after midnight." I blinked. "Sorry, what?" She paused. Her eyes, pale, gray, tired, didn't match her flat voice. "Just don't." That should have been enough for me to turn around and sleep in my car. But I was 19, remember? Thought I was untouchable. Besides, I figured she was trying to creep me out. Or maybe it was some weird local joke. Room 7 was at the far end of the row, under a flickering porch light. The door stuck when I opened it, like it hadn't moved in a while. Inside everything was beiged walls, sheets, curtains, like the room was drained of color. The air smelled faintly of bleach and something metallic underneath. I locked the door, tossed my bag on the chair, and lay on the bed scrolling through my phone. No. Wi-Fi, barely a bar of signal. I couldn't sleep. Every little sound felt louder in that silence. The wind outside, the pop of the heater, even my own breathing. I kept glancing at the door. At the puffle. It looked normal, just a little glass eye in the wood. I wasn't scared. Not yet. More curious, but the clerk's warning kept echoing in my mind. Midnight came and went. I remember staring at the glowing red digits on the alarm clock. 12:04 a.m., and then, knock, knock. I sat up. THUD. Another knock, softer. Like whoever was out there didn't want to be heard. I moved toward the door, bare feet on the carpet. The room suddenly felt colder. Another knock. I hesitated, then looked through the peephole. At first I thought it was broken. Couldn't see anything, just a blur of red and black like the lens was fogged. I leaned closer, squinting, and then the image snapped into focus. A woman, standing motionless, wearing a long red coat. Hair soaked like she'd been out in rain, but it hadn't rained all day. She was staring straight at the door. But not at the peephole, more like through it. Her mouth was moving. But no sound came out. I stepped back, and she knocked again. 3. Time's sharper now. Urgent. I whispered, "Who are you?" 12:11 a.m. when I looked again. She was gone. Just the empty hallway outside, glowing faintly under the porch light. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. Sat upright on the bed, watching the door. In the morning, the front office was locked. I waited for nearly half an hour, but no one showed up. I finally left the key on the counter and drove off. 3 days later, I was back on the road, about 200 miles north. Another quiet town, another budget motel. I checked in, didn't say much to the clerk, just wanted to get some rest. That night, I woke up again around midnight. No sound, no knock, but something pulled me out of bed. I walked to the door. Not because I heard anything, but because I felt something like the air was pressing against my chest. Guiding me, I looked through the peephole. She was there again. Same red coat, same dripping hair. But this time, she was closer. Her face was right against the door, one eye lined up with the peephole. And now I could hear her. Her voice wasn't loud. It didn't sound human. It was like metal grinding on metal, sharp glitching syllables that made my stomach turn. Why did you look? I stepped back. My hands were shaking. She kept speaking, but now it wasn't words. It was screaming. Sound wasn't coming through the door. It was inside my head. I ran to the bathroom, slammed the door, turned on the light. I don't know how long I stayed there, rocking, crying, covering my ears. When I finally came out, the screaming had stopped, but the peephole was cracked. Split clean down the middle as if something had pushed from the other side. I started researching. Desperately forums, old archives. I even went on dark web boards, the kind that warn you not to stay logged in too long. I found a post. Just one. Dated 2009. Posted by someone named Inda Verizon. If you see the woman in red through the peephole, it's already too late. She only comes for those who break the rule. Don't let her voice inside your head. Don't let her see your eye. She follows the gaze. The post had no replies. The user never posted again. I moved. Changed my number. Stopped staying in motels, but the damage was done. That was a year ago now. Every door I pass, even in my apartment, I cover the peephole with black tape, just in case. But last night, found a note under my door, no return address, no name, just for words written in red ink. Don't look this time. Story 4. They checked in with no faces. People think the night shift is boring. You sit behind a counter. Drink bad coffee, maybe nod off a little if it's slow. But I've worked front desk at motels for over a decade, and let me tell you, the night does strange things. It's not loud, in your face, weird. No, it's the slow, creeping kind of strange. It's the kind that settles in behind your eyes and never really leaves. The motel I work at is just off I-44, about 10 miles from the nearest. Real town. We mostly get tired truckers, cheating couples, and lost tourists. It's quiet, lonely, the way I like it. But last November, something happened that made me rethink everything I thought was true. It was a Thursday night, freezing cold, dead silent. No traffic, no check-ins for hours. I had just poured myself a cup of coffee and was halfway through a crossword puzzle when I heard the bell above the front door. Ding! I looked up, expecting a road-weary traveler, or maybe one of the regulars. Instead, 2 people stepped in, or at least I think they were people. They were tall, pale, dressed in long black coats. No luggage, no visible phones or wallets, and their faces. God, I wish I could describe them better. At first glance, they looked normal. But then my eyes adjusted, and I realized they had no facial features. No eyes, no nose, no mouth, just smooth, stretched skin like wax models that never got finished. I couldn't speak. My throat locked up, but somehow I managed to croak out, "Need a room?" They nodded in perfect unison. My hands were shaking as I reached for the guest book. I asked them for names. They didn't answer. Instead, one of them slowly raised a gloved finger and pointed at the wall-mounted room chart. Room 6. One of the oldest rooms in the back wing. Hardly anyone stayed there anymore. I handed over the key without saying another word. They walked away without making a sound. That should have been the end of it. Just a weird interaction with 2 very creepy, maybe disfigured guests. But then I checked the monitor. Our motel has cheap security cams set up around the building. Grainy black and white feed, room doors, parking lot, lobby. I looked at the hallway cam near room 6 and saw nothing. No movement, no door opening, no one walking. I rewound the footage. Still nothing. I watched them leave the lobby in real time, then vanish from the feed before reaching the hallway, like they blinked out of existence. I tried to calm myself. Told myself maybe the feed glitched. Maybe it froze. Maybe I'd missed something. I even went down to room 6 and knocked. No answer. But the room was locked from the inside. I walked back to the front desk and checked the guest log again. My handwriting. Was there time of check-in? Room 6. But no names. The line for guest name was blank. Worse still, the page above the entire log for the past week was missing. Like someone had carefully torn it out. I didn't sleep that morning. When the day clerk arrived, I told her everything. She looked concerned, but also like she didn't believe me. Can't blame her. Saying faceless people checked in through a silent glitch in time isn't exactly standard procedure. I stayed late and pulled every tape from the night before. Lobby feed. There they were walking in, but on camera, they didn't look faceless. They looked scrambled, like someone had erased their features frame by frame. Their heads were smeared with static, constantly shifting, almost like the footage was alive. Then I noticed something else. The time stamp was wrong, not just off by an hour, off by years. November 1996, I called the motel's owner. Told him we needed to get someone to check the system. Maybe the feeds were corrupted. He was silent for a while. Then he said, "You saw them too, huh?" I asked what he meant. He told me to come to the office in person. Inside the owner's back office was a dusty filing cabinet. Pulled out a manila folder and laid it flat on the table. Inside were 4 photos, printed on old glossy paper. Each one was a still image from a security cam. Same grainy angle, same doorway. Room 6.in. Each photo, 2 people, standing perfectly still. And every photo was dated November 7th, different years. 1983, 1996, 2007, 2019. Always the same date, always the same room, always the same blank faces. The owner looked at me and said, "They check in every 13 years. They never leave." We stopped assigning room 6 back in 2019, but sometimes they come anyway. I didn't sleep for days. Room 6 stayed locked. I avoided walking past it. Just looking at the door gave me chills. It was always colder near that side of the hallway, like the air didn't move right. One night, curiosity got the better of me. I opened the key safe and grabbed the spare for room 6. I went down the hallway, every step louder than the last. When I slid the key into the lock, it turned. Even though no one had left or returned the original, the door creaked open. The room was spotless. Too spotless. Not a speck of dust, not a crease on the bed. On the wall above the headboard, someone had carved a message into the plaster. I could barely make it out in the dim light. "They remember you." I closed the door, locked it, walked away, and never went near it again. 3 nights ago, the anniversary again, I was alone at the desk. 2:14 a.m., I heard the bell. Ding. I looked. Up, no one was there, but on the desk, right where guests usually sign in, was a key. Room 6, and next to it, a freshly filled out guest log, names written in red ink I didn't recognize. It's letters I've never seen before, symbols I can't describe. My name was at the bottom. I don't remember what happened next. I woke. Up in my car in the parking lot at sunrise, the nosebleed and a splitting headache. Room 6. It's locked again. The security footage is gone. Every digital file for that night wiped clean. I asked the owner if he saw anything. He just looked at me and said, "You know how it works now?" Don't know what they want, but if you ever check into a quiet little roadside motel and see room 6 on the chart, do yourself a favor. Pick another room. And if 2 people walk through the front door with no faces, look away, because once they see you, you'll never be the same again. Story 5. The woman who never stops knocking. It started with a knock. Just one. That quiet, polite, tap, tap, tap. You hear in hotel hallways all the time. Late check-ins, room service, maybe a drunk guest trying the wrong door. At least that's what I thought until it didn't stop. My name is Mason. I used to travel a lot for work, medical sales mostly. It's always on the road, always in a different city. You learn to live out of your suitcase, eat cold dinners, and forget what day it is. Last March, I was booked in a motel just off Route 17, near a town so small it didn't even show up on the weather app. It was one of those generic chains with beige walls, slow Wi-Fi, and vending machines that steal your quarters. I checked in around 11:30 p.m., room 204, second floor. At the end of the hall, everything felt wrong the moment I opened the door. Not dramatic wrong, not horror movie wrong, just off. Like the air had been disturbed. Like someone had been there just seconds before me and left something behind, a feeling maybe, a tension that hadn't. Settled, but I was exhausted. I brushed it off. Brushed off the weird scratch marks on the inside of the doorframe. Brushed off the cold patch under the window that didn't go away. Even when I turned up the heater, brushed it all off. Until the knocking started. It was 3:17 a.m. I was half asleep when I heard it. Knock, knock, knock. Not frantic. Not forceful. Just steady. Repetitive. Like someone was waiting, expecting. I got up, looked through the peephole. No one. I opened the door. Empty hallway. I figured maybe someone hit the wrong room. But 5 minutes later, again, knock, knock, knock. This time, I whipped the door open fast. Still nothing. But now, the room felt colder. Like the knock had let something in. I called the front desk. The guy on duty, Carl, sounded tired. When I told him someone kept knocking and disappearing, there was a long silence on the line. Then he asked, "Room 204. "Yeah." Another pause. "Don't open the door again," he said quietly. "No matter what. Just stay in your bed. She only knocks 3 times per night." I laughed nervously. Carl didn't answer. The line went dead. Now I'm not the kind of guy who believes in ghosts or folklore. But when the third knock came at 3:59 a.m., precisely something shifted in my chest. A pressure like I'd been holding my breath without knowing it. Knock, knock, knock. I didn't move. Didn't look. Didn't breathe. I stayed like that until morning. The next day I asked Carl about it again. He refused to meet my eyes. Just said people don't stay in 204 twice. When I pressed, he finally told me the story. 10 years ago, a woman stayed in room 204. Traveling nurse, late check-in. Seemed nice. Sometime during the night, she went door to door knocking. She started at one end of the hallway and moved to the other. She only ever knocked 3 times on each door, not yelling. Not speaking, just knocking. When a guest opened up, she'd smile and ask, "Do you hear it too?" They always said no, and she'd move on until someone said yes. No one knows what happened after that. Security footage glitched. The guest disappeared. No body, no trace. Just a weird smell in the room. A week later, another knock. Carl told me she still comes back, especially in March. Always to room 204. He said the knocks are a kind of test. If you open the door, she sees you. If you answer her question, she follows you. If you invite her in, she stays. That night, I taped a towel under the door and left the bathroom light on. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, heart pounding, counting every second. At 3:17 a.m., just like before, knock, knock, knock. My skin went ice cold. I didn't move. 3:33 a.m. Knock. Knock. My hands were shaking. I had this overwhelming urge to answer, like a voice whispering in my ear, telling me to just look. Just see who it is. I almost did, but I didn't. Then came the final knock, 3:59 a.m. this time. There was a voice, a woman's right outside the door. Taut, calm, sad, hollow. "Do you hear it too?" I didn't breathe, didn't answer. Eventually, silence. I checked out first thing in the morning. Carl didn't say a word, just handed me my receipt and gave me a long, tired look. I never went back to that town, but that isn't the end. A week later, started hearing knocking in my apartment. Same rhythm. Same time, 3:17 a.m. At first I thought it was in the building. Neighbors, pipes, something. But it wasn't it. Every city, every hotel, every room. Always at 3:17, then 3:33, then 3:59, and always. Voice. "Do you hear it?" 2. I've moved twice. Changed numbers. Quit my job. Throughout anything I had from that trip, didn't matter. She still finds me. I never answer. But last night, I almost did. The voice sounded closer, clearer, like it wasn't behind the door anymore, like it was already in the room. So if you're ever staying at a motel and you hear a knock in the dead of night, Just stay quiet, don't open the door, and never answer the question, because if you say yes, she'll follow you next. Story 6. The owner said not to use the mirror. I needed to disappear, not in the spy movie way. No aliases or forged passports. I just needed to be somewhere else. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere no one would ask about the bruises on my wrist, or why my eyes never stopped darting around the room. So I packed a single bag, left my phone on a bench downtown, and drove west. For hours. Until the highways faded into cracked two-lane roads and the sun started bleeding out across the horizon. That's how I found the Creekside Pines Motel, or maybe it found me. It was the kind of place you'd only see if you were looking. Too hard, a squat L-shaped building nestled between leafless trees, barely visible from the road. Its neon sign buzzed a half-lit motel, flickering like it was gasping for air. There were only 6 rooms. The woman at the front desk, pale, middle-aged, eyes too wide, gave me room 3. She handed me the key, then leaned in close and said, completely serious, "Don't use the mirror." I blinked. "Sorry," she repeated it. "Don't use the mirror in your room. Cover it, avoid it. I don't care. Just don't use it. Don't look into it. Don't touch it. Especially not after midnight." She said it like she'd recited it hundreds of times, not as a warning, but a ritual. I should have left right then, but I didn't. Room 3 smelled like mildew and old paperbacks. There was a single queen bed, a nightstand, and a window that refused to close completely. The bathroom door creaked like it had a voice of its own, and above the dresser, opposite the bed, was the mirror. It was huge, oval-shaped with a tarnished brass frame. It had the kind of warped glass that seemed to shimmer when you weren't looking directly at it. I draped a towel over it before I even unpacked. Better safe than sorry. The first night was uneventful, mostly except for the scratching. It started around 1 a.m., a dry, scraping sound, like something dragging its nails across glass. Not loud, but rhythmic. I turned on every light. Checked the window, the door, the bathroom. Nothing, but when I walked past the mirror, even with the towel still covering it, I swear I felt heat radiating off of it. It's like a feverish breath. My skin prickled. I didn't sleep much after that. Bye. The second night I noticed something new. My reflection in the bathroom mirror didn't quite match. It was subtle at first. A slight lag in movement. A blink that lasted half a second too long. A smile that felt forced, even though I wasn't smiling at all. I told myself I was paranoid, but that night, the towel was on the floor. I didn't move it, and the mirror, the one I wasn't supposed to look at, was fogged over, like someone had breathed on it from the inside. I called the front desk the next morning. No answer. I went to the office. Empty. No clerk. No car in the lot.
Ow.
No sign of life. But the motel was still running power on, water hot. It was like the woman had vanished, or like she'd never existed. I should have left, packed up, walked away, kept going until I found a normal place with fluorescent lights and ugly carpets. But I didn't, because that night, I looked. It was just after midnight. Don't know why I did it. Maybe it was the silence, the pressure in my skull, or the way the towel kept ending up on the floor, no matter how tightly I tucked it. Maybe the mirror wanted me to. I pulled the towel down, and I saw myself, but it wasn't me. Not exactly. It looked like me. Same hair, same clothes, but the eyes were wrong. They weren't just darker, they were deeper. Like looking through a tunnel that went on forever. The reflection smiled. I didn't. It lifted its hand slowly, deliberately, and tapped on the glass. Not a real sound, but something. I felt a vibration deep in my ribs. I tried to move, to look away, but I couldn't. I was stuck, like the mirror was holding me there. Then it spoke. Its mouth didn't move, but the words echoed in my head like a whisper wrapped in static. Let me finish it. I didn't understand until I noticed the scar on its wrist, the same one I had, except on the reflection. It was open, bleeding fresh. Mine had healed months ago. The thing in the mirror was behind. It wasn't just mimicking me, it was following me, trying to catch up. I don't remember falling asleep. I woke up the next morning on the floor, the towel draped neatly back over the mirror. My nose was bleeding. My fingertips were raw, like I'd been scratching at something for hours. There were long drag marks on the inside of the mirrors. Glass, like something had tried to claw its way out. I left that morning. Didn't pack, didn't check out. I drove until the fuel light came on and found a gas station with a working payphone. When I told the clerk I'd stayed at Creekside Pines, his face went pale. He told me that motel burned down 3 years ago. Said there was only one survivor, a woman who'd inherited it from her father. She'd lost her mind after a guest slit his wrists in. Room 3 claimed his reflection made him do it. She told police it was unfinished business. I drove back the next day just to see. There's nothing there now, just ash and vines and twisted metal. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear scratching in my bathroom mirror. And sometimes, when I look too long, I see myself, but not quite. He's catching up. Story 7. The room that checked itself in, they say every hotel has that one room. The one that doesn't show up in the system. The one the cleaning staff avoids. The one with stories whispered by the night shift. But what if it's not? The room that's haunted? What if the room itself is the ghost? Jared worked the night shift at a roadside motel just outside of Flagstaff, Arizona. It was a seasonal place, mostly used by truckers or skiers in the winter, and it rarely ever filled up. He liked the job, quiet, predictable, most nights. He just watched reruns of old sitcoms and played solitaire behind the front desk until 1 Thursday night. That's when room 8 checked in. It started like this. At 2:17 a.m., the booking notification pinged his screen. Jared blinked. That was weird. They never got online reservations that late. There it was. Room reserved. #8. Guest name. Unavailable. Paid in full. No credit card. No ID. He refreshed the system. Nothing changed. Room 8 was marked as occupied. The only problem? Room X. 8 didn't exist. The motel only had 7 rooms. A single strip, side by side, all accounted for. Room 8 had never been built. The blueprints confirmed it. The space where it would have been was just empty dirt and a sagging fence behind the building. But the system insisted it was real. Worse, the key light on the wall, the one that lit up whenever a room was in use, flickered to life for room 8. Jared thought it had to be a glitch. He went out to the hallway, too, prove it to himself, but that's when he saw it. Between room 7 and the end of the hall was a door, an old wooden door with peeling white paint and a bronze handle. It wasn't there the day before. It wasn't supposed to be there. No do not disturb sign, no peephole, just a tarnished metal plaque with the number 8 etched deep into the surface. The door looked older than the building itself, like it had waited there, buried under time, decided tonight was the night it would come back. Jared stood in front of it. For a long time, he didn't knock, didn't try the handle. He just went back to the front desk. He logged out of the system, shut down the computer. But room 8 kept showing as occupied. He even tried calling the number assigned to it in the internal system, just to see .3 rings. Then a voice answered. Hello? The voice sounded exactly like his. Panicked. Jared hung up and unplugged the phone entirely, but the line didn't go dead. It kept ringing again and again. At 3:03 a.m., the front door. Camera tripped. Someone, or something, was standing just outside the glass. He checked the feed. There was no one there, but the motion sensor kept activating. He stepped outside. Nothing, except wet footprints, bare, leading away from the office, toward room 8. He grabbed his flashlight and followed. The prints ended just in front of the strange door. One footprint facing in, one facing out. He knocked. No answer. He crouched, looked beneath the door. Only darkness on the other side. A darkness, too thick, too deep, like it wasn't a room at all, but a hole in space. That's when he noticed the air around the door was cold. Not just cool, freezing. My breath fogged instantly. He backed away. Then the door handle moved just a twitch, like someone testing it from the inside. He ran. The next morning, room 8 was gone. Not just empty gone. No door. No plaque. No room. Just wall. And in the system, nothing. No record. No charge. No guest name. The key light was off. Jared questioned everything. Maybe he'd hallucinated it. Maybe he was overworked. He didn't tell his manager. He just tried to forget until the next week. Another graveyard shift. Another quiet night, and then 2:17 a.m. sharp. Ding. Reservation confirmed. Room 8. Paid in full. No ID. He sprinted to the hallway, and there it was. The door. Same as before. Waiting this time, he brought bolt cutters. He wanted proof. He snapped. Photos of the door, the footprints, the temperature readout on his phone, all of it. But the moment he stepped away, the photos vanished, corrupted. Blank gray squares were the images. Should have been, even his reflection looked off. Eyes too dim, skin too pale. He emailed a local paranormal forum, desperate for answers. Only one person replied. The message was simple. Don't open the door. If it checks in 3 times, it's you who never checks out. Jared didn't know what that meant until the third night. It was 2 weeks later. He was ready this time. Had quit the job, came back just to see if the door would return, and at 2:17 a.m., it did, but this time the door was open, just a crack. A thin slice of darkness bleeding into the hallway. And there, on the threshold, stood someone who looked exactly like him. Same clothes, same face, same tired eyes. The only difference. Reflection smiled. Jared turned to run, but the hallway twisted, doors shifted, numbers scrambled. There was no exit, just corridor after corridor, until there was only one door left. Room 8. And the handle was turning, they found. Jared's car still in the parking lot the next morning. His uniform folded neatly on the desk. No sign of him. No record of his shift. No digital footprint at all. Like he'd checked out of the world, and on the wall behind the front desk, one extra room light glowed softly. Room 8, occupied, still waiting for the next night manager. Would you check in? You've just heard 7 chilling motel horror stories, tales of missing time, phantom guests, haunted hallways, and rooms that should never exist. The next time you check into a cheap motel for the night, pause. Look twice at the room. Number. Listen for footsteps that don't belong, because some rooms don't want you to leave and others were never meant to exist in the first place. If you made it this far, consider yourself lucky. And a little braver than most. If these stories kept you up or sent a shiver down your spine, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss a night here at Something Scary. Drop a comment below. Which story messed with your head the most? Or have you ever had your own motel nightmare? Until next time, sleep light, stay safe, and if your room has no number on the door, don't go in.